Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast to disappear faster than a manager on the bad side of John Mozeliak. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Ben Simorka. How you doing?
Other than our philosophical differences, I think I'm doing okay, but it's great to be back. I'm excited. It's nice to talk to you.
Yeah, it's been a little while. It's fine to talk to you, but I'm glad
back?
to be glad to be back to talk about some baseball. And on this brand new show, this brand new episode, we are going to be talking about a bit of a recap of the 2021 season, what we enjoyed from it, and what we're looking forward to in 2022. We're going to talk about those aforementioned philosophical differences and the management change on the team. And we're going to talk a little bit about free agency, what has happened so far, and where we would like it to go. Shout out to Chris Phillips for our new theme song. Ridiculous. Well, Hambone, my boy, we're back. How you doing? You ready to do this again, to do this podcast?
Yeah, I think, especially with the off season that was super, super go and then super, super stop, I've kind of been jonesing for some type of baseball content. So why not make our own?
That's right. Why do anything if it's not towards making content, And I think you and I enjoy talking about baseball, and I think we both have missed doing the show. It's been like 5 years almost since we were last really doing this podcast.
It was my old apartment. I had to record like in the main area of the room and band married to the bedroom. So that's like 2 or 3 houses ago, and I'm still out here in Denver. But yeah, it's very, very nice to get back in the studio or whatever and start recording again.
Yeah, I've got a couple kids since the last time we did this, so life's a little fundamentally different. But I think we've been talking about doing this for a while, and it's a lot of effort to do something like this every week, and we kind of kept dragging our feet. But this super weird off season and generally lack of baseball to talk about, I think somehow has actually kicked this into motion. This like gulf of baseball news has inspired us to, like you said, get back in the old studio here and give it another shot. So this
really
run,
bootstrapping our own content.
That's right. If no one else will talk about it, well then, damn it, we will. So
yeah, and I also think it's a good time to be a Cardinals fan right now. Like, I think that you could make the argument that the team is on the upswing from what was kind of a bit of a doldrumish 3 seasons, or so that we kind of missed out on. So I think we're kind of hopefully, while we're starting this, the Cardinals are ascending a little bit, but obviously we'll talk about that more. But right now, I'm being hopeful.
Yeah, I think so. We basically were a podcast from the 2012 season through most of 2016 before it started to, our releases got fewer and far between. And so we missed doing the show weekly on 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. And 3 of those were just not great seasons. One of them was the 2020 season. And then there was last year, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But definitely, I think there's a lot to be excited about for whatever the 2022 season is going to look like, which I don't think we're going to talk a whole lot about the lockout.
We're not going to break any lockout news. I don't have any insiders. I obviously have opinions, and I think we could probably say this podcast is pro player. But other than that, I don't know if we have much else to say.
yeah, we're not going to give you anything that you don't already know or don't already feel. So we're pretty much going to just, this will be really the most of our lockout content, explaining that we're not going to talk a lot about the lockout. We are just hopeful that it ends and we get a full season and the players get what they deserve. So a couple other, sort of programming notes. Our previous format, if there's anyone out there listening now that was a fan back then, first of all, thank you for coming
Hey,
back to us. Yeah,
thank
it's
you.
good to talk to you again. And what we did with the last show is we would really try to be like a day-to-day game coverage podcast. So we'd spend a lot of time breaking down each series, pitchers, individual performances, and I almost thought of it as like a podcast as a service show where, like, if you didn't watch all the games, uh, then you could listen to our show and you could have a reasonable understanding of like what happened in each game. And I think that was, a valiant effort, but it turned out to be ultimately not super sustainable. And also, we know that everyone, if you're going deep enough to listen to a Cardinals podcast, then you're probably pretty plugged in to the team anyway, and don't necessarily need two ding dongs like us telling you what happened on every single game. You're a degenerate just like us. You're following it. So we're not going to do like game by game coverage anymore. Of course, we're still going to talk about the games as they've happened and notable elements, but we're not going to be talking how many hits people got, how many, in every game.
I know one season we got very pitcher score obsessed. I think we were talking about pitcher scores almost every game on every episode. Yeah, taking a step back from that. Not to mention, like Nate said, the time commitment of not only having to watch every game, note every game, make sure we're recording and make sure it's out at a certain time. I know no one wants to hear us complain about that, but it got to be very, very cumbersome, I think, is where we're getting at, yeah.
So we're back, though, and we're going to take a looser approach and be more topic-based, more like trending season-wide things, and try to bring you some newer style content, some things that we weren't doing in the past, which hopefully you'll see as the show goes on. We're still figuring out what our release schedule is really going to look like during the off-season and then the regular season, but we do intend this to be a generally weekly show. So again, thanks everyone who is back. And if you're a new listener, thanks for checking us out. We're excited to do this. We are two lifelong Cardinal fans. And, like Ben said, I think this is a good time to be a Cardinal fan again.
Yeah, I just want to share that and say, yes, thank you very much. And please tell your friends if you're listening to us.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's get into it a little bit here. So we wanted to start. It's been months now since the end of the 2021 season. I think most of us have digested it and we're ready for 2022. But this is our first episode of the season, so we thought it'd be nice to look back a little bit on some of the things that went really well in 2021 and what we're excited to see in 2022. So I think the obvious way to start a discussion about 2021 is the most notable thing.
17 games.
Yes, the 17 game streak. Maybe the most fun I've had as a Cardinal fan since the 2011 World Series victory. And even that is like a different type of fun, obviously the season. Yeah, go on.
I think both of you and I are good at not wearing the games.
Yeah,
we're not. Our days aren't controlled by the Cardinals' success. That being said, I think I can get I'll get locked in and I'll get frustrated and I'll be cursing at the couch or the TV or whatever. But that was one of the few times I can ever remember where I felt like I was just playing with house money. Okay, it's game 15 of this streak. Go out there. If they get destroyed, I don't care. If they win, wow, that's great. I don't know if I've been a Cardinal fan for 20 something years. I don't think I've ever felt that way about a series of games, which was really, really nice.
Well, it was the perfect combo because I think most of us had started to accept the fact that This was probably not going to be a successful season. The playoffs were very unlikely. Everything was kind of trending down. And then we go on this run that is not just ridiculous from just like a probability standpoint, but it also propels the Cardinals into like a locked in playoff spot, which, I mean, again, I had pretty much
Oh,
made my peace with this season being done, you know?
fully resigned.
So,
I was thinking of, yeah, Dylan Carlson had a nice year. The outfield established itself. We can walk away and be happy that the team took a step forward. And then, I think it also needs to be mentioned that the Reds, did what the Reds did last year, which helped out the
yeah.
Cardinals quite a bit, which I did not see coming at all. But yeah, I mean, unsuspected, obviously, just because of the mathematical probability and what we watched.
Yeah, and what it did for the season. I know for you and I, the trade deadline last year was very frustrating
Oh
because
my
we were
God.
both like, this sell. This is a sell season, just do it. There's not a lot of tradable assets, but there are a few, and it should be maximized. And instead, the Cardinals did their thing where they do almost nothing at the trade deadline. Added a couple old ass pitchers, and then this happens, and for better or worse,
And like,
justifying that approach.
I
But
also want to point out, and maybe we could get into this more at a different episode or something like that, but Lester and Happ technically helped the team. I still don't believe that's why it happened the way it happened. Like, those were two bad pitchers that were not, they really only were throwing better because of the Cardinals defense as opposed to the Nationals defense and
right,
the Twins defense. But when other teams fans or other teams or whatever talk about devil magic, that is like that is it right there in a transaction. It's they go get two pitchers that are nothing. They don't really improve much at all. Somehow it works out, and the Cardinals go on a 17-game winning streak, make it to the playoffs, and here we are.
yeah.
Like, Mozeliak shouldn't really get the credit that he is getting for that, even though I guess he should. I don't. Am I just being
Well,
just mean towards
that's
Mo?
the whole flip side, and the thing that I think some people rightfully were kind of almost bummed about the 17-game win streak is that it definitely
It
pasted over
it
like a
validates
lot
them,
of,
yeah.
yeah, there were a lot of problems with the team last year, and it took a record-breaking, insane 17-game winning streak in order for that season to be considered a success. And yeah, that's going to cover up a lot of things. And I don't know. I mean, I think the just raw baseball fan in me is like, I don't care about any of what it means. A 17-game win streak that propels your team into the playoffs is fun, and let's not overanalyze it, because it was fun, and that's what we're really here to do. Um, but yeah, it's hard not to kind of like overthink it. That's what we do as fans, especially when there's nothing else to do right now, is look back and overthink everything. But yeah, I think the bigger thing was the emergence of the outfield, the emergence of the bullpen,
Yeah,
and then guys like Wayno, who were actually just really good all season, which was a big surprise.
yeah, I think and I just want to hit that 17-game streak again, and you kind of said it pasted over or something. Like, I think something that we have sort of complained about, or at least acknowledged, even in the early days of recording this show, is the Cardinals are a hard team to upgrade because the floor is very low. And when something like this happens, the way that I kind of view it through my please make the team better lens that I'm always looking through, even if they are a good team, is that this kind of it's a hard team to upgrade because you have to go get really good players to upgrade it. And something like this, they'll be like, you know what? All we need to do is add a piece. This team's great. Look at that. They'll look at the run differential or something like that and say, that didn't play how we thought it was, but we think it'll bounce better our way next year. And I think that's like, I hope that makes sense, but that's kind of where I like boil my frustration down with kind of the way the organization goes up handling things like that. Hopefully, am I
Yeah.
making sense?
Yeah, well, they do. In the last 5 years, we've seen the Cardinals acquire Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, Marcell Ozuna, Jason Hayward. They do go and make these big acquisitions, but it's usually like one, and then they say, "All right, we're good," and then you see teams like the Padres or the Dodgers or whatever hot team it is of the moment that goes and makes like 19 trades in one offseason and completely overhauls their entire roster, and that's more exciting as a fan to see that stuff. But I think the Cardinals constantly feel justified when the Padres had a horrible season last year, even
Sure.
after all of their insanity and the fact that they have Tatis Jr. on their team. And the Cardinals go and, they got Arenado in the offseason, which was the culmination of like years of desire from Cardinal fans, which was fantastic. We got him away from the cold, just terrible Denver area, that I don't know why anyone would ever, be there. But
It's because of Dick Monfort. It's he is why we're all here. We like to hang out with Dick. I like to know that I'm in the city with Dick. He runs a great organization. Yeah. The DeWitt should be jealous.
That's a good point. I take it all back. And those mountains are so pretty. I was in the mountains.
I was gonna say, do you want to talk about your shredding? Nate was shredding. He was shredding greens over in Copper a couple of weeks ago.
I went skiing for the very first time 2 weekends ago. Ben was very gracious with his time and his patience as I fell down a mountain for 4 days straight. But it was a wonderful time. Ben, I haven't told you this yet. My knee still hurts. I'm getting old. I'm getting old, Ben.
I'll be nice to you. You really did well. I'll give you credit for that.
Thank you.
And I don't know if I've ever seen somebody take more of a beating with like a bright smile on their face. and the beating was like 2.5 days long. I wouldn't say it was the whole 4 days. But I will give you credit. You took the beating. You smiled. You skied. I was very proud of you.
Well, I appreciate that. To be fair, though, by day 4, I fell less because I also just skied a lot less. But I did make it down a full green without falling, which felt like a near impossible feat. Especially, there was, I don't think I will ever forget. I think it was day 2 where you and our buddy Gordo were going with me, and I was falling like every 15 feet. And meanwhile, these like literal children, just smoking me constantly, just burning by me as I'm like, I could not figure out how to stand up appropriately. So I have to do this really goofy, like push-up style way of standing up.
And to paint the picture, Nate's face is covered in snow. His back is covered in snow. I mean, it was a sad state of affairs. And when you're up there, there's nothing you can do. The way down is down.
Is to ski.
Yeah.
Yeah. It took me like a half an hour to get down like 50-foot part of the hill that was like slightly steeper than anything else I'd done, and then by the last day I went back to that area. It's like, oh my God, it took me so long to get down this. And I think I was pretty fatigued at that point. My legs just kept giving out. Not generally the most athletic person over here. So that degree of slamming my body into the ground at high speeds started to take a toll on me. So, but anyway, those mountains are pretty. I take it all back.
And
Arenado,
Dick Monfort.
He's gotta be
we
so
like
mad.
Dick Monfort.
And we love Dick Monfort. What were we even talking about?
The Cardinals are hard to upgrade. This streak made that so that I don't think that John Mozeliak actually sits around and is like, yes, we had just a good enough season, so I don't have to go do anything to adjust the team. I really think it is just they have a conservative approach. That's why they've been successful for like 15, 20 years at this point. And then, you turn around and you'd like to, we traded for some big guys like you're just talking about. And I think Jordan Walker's the top 15 prospect on Fangraphs right now. We got Ivan Herrera, who's on the top 100, Liberatore,
Gorman.
I mean, so
Gorman will,
Like you look at you expect Gorman to probably start this upcoming year. Liberatore might be coming up, and the pipeline's still healthy. So it's kind of hard. Like it's one of those things. It's like, am I more excited about Jordan Walker coming up than I would be about X acquisition? I don't know. It's really hard to say that. And I think like it's really easy to sit here and be like, well, what the hell are you doing, Mo? But at the same time, I want to see Jordan Walker in a Cardinals uniform. I think more than anybody else really, or for trading any other player that is reasonable.
Yeah.
So
Well, prospects are
yeah,
always fun because you get to imagine what they're going to be as opposed to, most current players where you kind of know what they are. And, like they would be an improvement for the team. But Jordan Walker right now feels like he's the next, you know, Pujols basically is the way he's being hyped right now.
yeah.
He's
Well,
20 years old or whatever, and he's a top 15 prospect after a half season. It's
yeah.
insane.
I mean, he's having exit velo in the low minors that like Giancarlo had. Like that,
Right.
we're talking
Yeah.
about like a very rare power prospect. Somebody who makes Nolan Gorman look like a slap hitter, which is insane.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy how much he's already passed Gorman in a
Yes.
lot of rankings, and Gorman has been like the coming, savior of the Cardinals infield for a while now. So, but I think unless the Cardinals do something which they've never done before, which is really, or they rarely do, which is very quickly promote people through the minors, we probably won't see Walker for a couple more years. But Gorman we should see this year, which is exciting. I'm hoping right out of spring training with whatever spring training looks like.
Yeah, I
But
think.
one thing
Oh yeah, I think the only thing that would limit that would be, I guess we got to see what the CBA looks like. Are the Cardinals going to want to get him to Super 2? Is that not going to be worth it anymore? Is that a gap that's going to get closed? The Cardinals have not really cared about that so much in the past. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But yeah, I hope you're right.
Yeah. I think, ultimately the Cardinals, you mentioned that you don't think Mozeliak is like content with squeaking by. I agree with you. I think they are content with is set the sights of making the playoffs and then let the playoffs, which are essentially, I've heard it described before as a random championship generator. Uh, you know, they're content with that. Get a team that'll make it to the playoffs, and then just let it go and let the chips fall where they may. And I can kind of see why you would maybe have that feeling as a general manager when you consider the Cardinals' own history, where the Cardinals were easily the best team in the league, or contended for the best team in the league in 2004 and 2005. Got nothing for it, and then when the scraps of that team stumbled into the playoffs in 2006, they won the World Series. 2011, the Cardinals, we all know, not the best team in the league. They won the World Series. But in 2013, when they were probably, it was them and they were the best team in the NL, they lost the World Series. And then in 2015, when they won 100 games, they fell out of the first round. So, like, the Cardinals' own track record shows that, like, once you get into the playoffs, there's really no, there doesn't seem to be a significant difference between like the super teams and the teams that just get in.
I think that is 100% right on. And then I also think that there's a factor in the past, 3-4 years, maybe 5 years of the Cardinals trading guys like Randy Arozarena, and Luke Voigt, and them playing really well. So I do think like something that we have seen over maybe the past 3 years, maybe it's been less time than that, but over the past few years is they really want to see what their guys got in the MLB, and they're going to give Lars Nootbaar 300 at-bats next year before they decide if they do want to move him or not. Like, I do think there is a little bit of, I don't think gun shy is really a fair word, because I think less the Randy Arozarena and more the Luke Voigt. I think most of St. Louis fans were like, we get it. Like, we need these pieces, and it makes sense. And we did not really, I did not see him leading the AL in home runs, a year after that or 2 years after that trade. So I think those things combined, like, it all makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. That one's trickier too, the Voigt one, because also, he might not. He was a non-tender candidate, some people thought, this year. And Gallegos, who they got in the trade, is one of the best relievers in baseball. So that one kind of worked out for both sides anyway. But one thing that I think is interesting too is are the Cardinals going to have to change this approach if suddenly now there's expanded playoffs and like 7 teams are getting in, and just the like allure of making the playoffs, or rather the perceived success of making the playoffs is going to be diminished. It already is with the 2 wild cards. And if there's suddenly now, even more middle of the pack teams, if like built into the system that 83 wins or 84 or whatever is likely enough to get you into the playoffs, is that no longer going to be considered success to make the playoffs? Is it really going to just get down to, if you do not win a World Series or at least have a deep run in the playoffs, that season is not even considered a success? And if so, will that mentality of get in and see how it goes, will that become less tenable than it already is? Because there's kind of a mentality in St. Louis already that like the playoffs aren't enough. But that's also St. Louis being St. Louis. But if the entire league now getting into the playoffs is not enough, if like suddenly like teams like the Rockies or whatever are getting into the playoffs, like is that going to diminish the the value of it?
Well, and
I don't know.
I think there's 2 ways to look at it. I think like generally just speaking broad strokes, I'm expanding playoffs. I would rather it stay the way it is. But there are 2 positive ways to kind of look at it. It's, one, win your damn division. That it gives you a lot more incentive to go out there and win the division because it's that much more of an advantage. And maybe that, the Cardinals front office or other competitive front offices say that's our goal now. We need to be really, really competitive within the division, and then we'll kind of, play your World Series generator game. And then on the other side, if the Cardinals or if X team has a bad first half, I think the other positive aspect is, okay, well, one of our players is coming back. Maybe we make a trade. Maybe we squeak in and the team really gets healthy and we have a 2006 or a 2011 type run. So there are good ways to look at it. That being said, like my holistic opinion on this is that we're just going to see worse baseball in the playoffs. And it's just not going to be as precious as it was. That being said, I do think like trying to be put a positive spin on this whole thing. Playoff baseball is great. If I get more playoff baseball games, that is good. But if I'm watching like, I don't know, who would be the teams right now? Like, are the Reds going to squeak in? I don't want to watch that team as is currently constructed in the playoffs. That's, it's a bit of a farce. Unless they make some major changes to their roster and keep Luis Castillo, who it seems like they're going to move. But yeah, I don't know. That's we'll see how it plays out, I suppose.
I think, playoff baseball is obviously, it's more fun. The more of it is conceivably more fun. But I think it is also, it's kind of less fun depending on the current state of your team. Yep. If you're like a really good team that's projected to do really well, it can be really frustrating if the Reds or whoever get in and all of a sudden you have to play them, and then any series, who knows, can win. But then if you're a fan of those teams that are in the middle, it gives you something to root for. Something exciting. There's lightning in a bottle, so on and so forth. So I agree with you. I am generally against expanded playoffs, but it's obviously that it's happening. The baseball has had the smallest playoff group in the major sports for a while now, even with its recent expansions. And, it all comes down to money, and playoff games is big money for the league. It is also generally more money for the players, which is nice. Not as much money as the owners are getting, but there's playoff pools and whatnot, so players are rewarded for making the playoffs. Which
how are the owners going to afford their auxiliary California mansions, Nathan?
Yeah, well, did you see? Scherzer had the gall to show up to the negotiations the other day in a Porsche. So he's the players don't need any more money either. When one of the owners like flew their helicopter to the meeting or something like that, which is like this. Yeah, it's anyway. Let's move on. Yeah. So 2021, interesting year. Probably, definitely made rosier from a crazy winning streak. I
Watching
think,
Nolan play
though,
every day.
yeah, Nolan, what a was exactly what we wanted. He brought the power, and you being in Denver, and I think has made both you more than me, but both of us, we engage with Rockies a little bit more than most people do outside of Denver. So I've been pretty familiar with seeing Nolan Arenado make crazy plays all the time. But it's something different when he's on your home team and you are watching almost every game.
Yeah.
Just the stuff that doesn't make it in the highlight reels. Almost every game. There's something that he does that is just a crazy physical feat that you can't imagine a human is able to do, and he's just doing it all the time with little fanfare.
I could do a whole show about how good it is to watch Nolan in a Cardinals uniform, but just if I could point out one thing that was really, really great to watch from him last year is him and Yadi's relationship and Nolan throwing people out at home on hard hit balls to him. I mean, that right there is just, I could watch that for the rest of my life.
I'll add one more to it. The Nolan, Yadi, Goldie, triangle of those three. I mean, Goldie is not Arenado, but he is, he's also a Gold Glove winning defender, and just maybe three of the smartest baseball people in the entire league, and just watching them execute ridiculous plays, and it was what a joy to watch all year. And probably last year with Yachty in that mix, but that Arenado to Goldie combo is just so much fun, and we have that for quite a while now. Which it still blows my mind to think about how the Cardinals have. So Goldschmidt and Arenado were basically my two favorite non-Cardinals for the last decade, more or less. And now they're both Cardinals now, which is just insane. It was like when the Cardinals got Matt Holliday. It's like a player from another team you just sort of revere, and somehow they're on your team. It's so much fun. And then I think the last thing I want to talk about with 2021 before we move on is the emergence of what we all thought Tyler O'Neill could be.
As he is now an established major league player, right? Can we say that?
Yep.
Can we give him that pseudo title or
the
whatever?
Lamborghini is out of the garage, baby.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say? He did everything that was asked of him. He played amazing defense. He's a blast to watch. I don't know. I mean, what else you gonna? I feel like he's bringing in the new
Canada.
Guard.
Yeah. And there's something about the way he carries himself, the way he interviews, everything. It just makes me laugh.
For the boys.
And he does it for the boys. He's always out there for the boys. There's something so funny about Tyler O'Neill that I can't quite put my finger on.
He's a swagged out Canadian is the only way. He's a Canadian, so he has those the sensibilities that I think we associate with Canadians, being calm and polite and grounded. But he also knows that he is, on any given day, the most talented person on the baseball field. And then he, in a press conference, he goes back to his Canadianisms and does it for the boys. But yeah, and I mean, just lock him up. Let's go. I couldn't be more excited.
He hits the shit out of the ball too. That just makes you there's no one else that I've seen hit home runs that I just laugh when the ball leaves the bat that way. I don't know. He's just a joy to watch. And I hope
step skip out of the batter's box when he's got it. He's super entertaining.
Yeah, I think it was our buddy Joe, first name drop of the show there for you, Joe, is kind of equated him to Javier Baez, but for the outfield. And I think that kind of makes sense. He is going to strike out a ton, but everything else he does is ridiculous and flashy. And, they're pretty different from a personality standpoint, but from a skills standpoint, I think it works. And I just hope that he's able to maintain this degree of focus, because I think that's the big thing. He really tightened up his swing and his plate approach this year, or in 2021, that just saw him, even though he still strikes out a ton, he struck out just less enough that when he was making enough contact, and when he makes contact, it's loud, like that it works. And I think any slip in that focus and that plate approach is going to send him back to what he was before. And I'm so hopeful that he can keep it going, because it changes the team dramatically.
Oh yeah, and I think also as a Cardinals fan, like you got to look at it as, the guy was 26 last year. He's gotten better every year being with the Cardinals, except for he had a weird 2021, and for obvious reasons. But the guy's getting better.
2020,
or sorry, 2020. Guy's getting better. He's still young. Like I think there's a lot to dream on, and I expect him to keep improving. I don't see why he wouldn't. I'm hitching my Apple wagon to the Tyler O'Neill star right now.
Hitching your Apple wagon.
That's a saying.
Is that a saying?
That's a saying. People say that.
An Apple wagon?
I think the saying is, I'm glad I hitched my Apple wagon to your star. Is the
Are you
saying.
sure it's Apple wagon?
Yes, you're taking your apples into market. You're going into the market to sell. You're going to have a great harvest, and I'm saying, ooh, I'm gonna attach myself to that. On your rise up, I'm coming with you.
I get it. I'm not arguing with
I feel like you're arguing with me. It's real.
I guess it's the Apple part that's sticking out to me.
What do you want to be selling?
Maybe I was just thinking a wagon.
Okay.
It's just you're hitching your wagon to it.
You're just going from one town to the next in your wagon. Anyways, I'm hitching myself to Tyler's Apple wagon.
No, now he has the Apple wagon?
He is, yes, and I am attaching my star to him.
Wait.
Somebody back me up.
Now you flipped it entirely.
Tweet at me. This is real.
You're attaching your star to Tyler's Apple wagon.
Yes.
Okay. He's got an Apple wagon, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
All right.
Talking about his caboose?
Hell yeah, he's got that booty power.
He's felt. Yeah, you can't, there's nothing to judge there. He's doing well for himself.
All right, let's go on to something else. So,
please.
Enough was written about this before, but I think it's worth talking about the unceremonious departure of Mike Shildt almost immediately at the end of the season, which I think does sort of show, at least to some degree, that Mozeliak and crew did not let the 17-win streak completely put blinders on their eyes for like what 2021 actually was. But man, what a shock that was.
Well, I kind of want to take like a half step back. What over his, was it 2.5 seasons that we had Shildt?
Yeah.
2.5 seasons. What would your grade for him be? Like, what are you, in his exit interview, you're saying you get a B+ for your performance. Like, what is your personal opinion on that?
Well, that's tricky. I was a big fan of Shildt, and I was very surprised when he was let go.
Yeah. I think surprised for sure, yes.
Yeah, I thought the problems with Shildt, I think, did start to highlight themselves in 2021. His attachment to his guys. I was pulling my hair out every time Matt Carpenter would go from a useless bench piece to, if he's starting, that means he's batting cleanup.
Yeah.
Like that sort of stuff. Shildt was marketed as this like analytics guy who blends old school with new school, and he gets it. He, like, a lot of the problems with Matheny, he's going to not do anymore. And then we saw that same stuff. Like, there was no reason Matt Carpenter should go from not rarely used bench player to batting cleanup when he plays. But for the most part, like, I liked Shildt. I thought his bullpen management was generally pretty good. The guys, he was also there for the boys,
I do kind of feel like we were sold that he was going to be the next Kevin Cash, and he was much more a Tony La Russa. And I don't
Yeah.
know, like we've also talked about in the past, like I'm not sure how much one individual manager has on a team's performance over a year. I don't think it's that dramatic, but I do think it is
Right.
frustrating that, like you said, like we were kind of expecting new philosophy to come, being dynamic, using your bullpen in a different way, putting the best player in the best situation again, really playing matchups and being aggressive in defense and offense and all matters of the game. And we never really saw that. Like you said, he trotted out the
Right.
same lineup over and over again. He was very, and I'm sure that some players are adamant on knowing their spots and everything like that. But I think a good modern manager is somebody who can communicate, hey, your spot is when you are most effective. It's
Right.
not the eighth inning, or it's not the second, in the order. It is where we think the whole team can do as well as possible. And that's the manager's entire job at this point, is communicating ideas that players may or may not like, or may or may not understand, or whatever, and getting them on board with it. And I think, like, obviously we have time to sit with this a little bit now. I think sitting back and looking at Shildt, I think you could say that he probably wasn't doing that great of a job for that. I do think he was
Right.
better than Matheny in the sense that he could actually communicate with the press and explain for most of the time, like, what he was thinking. So I appreciate that aspect of it, but that's, I guess where it starts and stops.
Yeah. I guess my answer ultimately to your question would be I'd give him a B because I thought generally he was good.
Yeah.
But there was obviously some sort of there's all the problems we just outlined, and obviously some sort of fundamental difference that we're never going to truly know. At least I don't think we will. For what was the straw that broke the camel's back, and what did he say or do that went from we were not planning on firing him to we needed to fire him as quickly as we possibly could,
Mm-hmm.
so much so that we had to ask MLB for permission to fire him on a playoff day because we had to do it right now.
Yeah.
Very shocking.
Yeah. And I think the
I
only,
think
oh, I'm sorry.
I think it's a little telling that he didn't get another job as a manager. There are a lot of openings this offseason, and when he got let go, it was like, where's he going to land? Where's he going to land? And he didn't. I think he got where he's ended up is a pretty cool spot, and I think, he'll be good and successful wherever he goes. But, like, I was expecting him to go over and suddenly be like the Padres manager or
Right.
or one of the other openings, and he did not. So there must be something.
Yeah, I mean, even Yankees before they locked up Aaron Boone, there was a big, high-profile, interesting jobs, and he is
Yeah.
a known commodity. I agree, and just to totally pontificate, I have no idea obviously what happened, but I really think it comes down to the conversation around using Alex Reyes in the last game of the season, and I wonder. The only thing that I can, maybe there was something else, and maybe it got personal, or something weird happened that, like you said, we'll never know about. But I almost think it's Shildt dug his heels in on that philosophical. That's the philosophical difference. Is that's my guy. He was an all-star. I don't care if he had a bad 2 months or whatever. The guy throws 100 miles an hour with a buckling curveball. I'm putting him in when I think he's there.
Right.
And Mozeliak said no. And Shildt said, well, "Yeah," and that was
And
it. It probably got more heated than that. There was probably more to it than that. But that makes a lot of sense to me. That being
it
said,
is,
I'm
yeah.
totally making that story up. I have no evidence whatsoever.
Well, it's doubtful it was any one moment, but that is a good representation of what we're talking about. That
Right.
unwillingness to mold to the current setting, and rather sticking with what I've always done because it's worked in the past. So Olie Marmol, it seemed pretty obvious out of the gates that he was the top contender, and it was a very quick turnaround time before he was promoted. Much in the same way that it happened with Matheny being let go and Shildt being put in the spot.
Yeah.
Schilt's been let go, and now Marmol's in the spot. So I don't know that much about Marmol from a philosophical standpoint, other than that he's basically been like the wonderkind of this organization for a while now. So it always seemed like he was headed towards this. I think it happened faster than most of us expected. He's particularly young for this position, but we've seen this guy for a long time now. Everyone loves him. He seems great. I don't have a whole lot to say about what my expectations are from him, other than you have to imagine, at least to start, he's going to do exactly what Mazalak and them have been asking Shildt to do because he just saw Shildt get fired for it, right? So I'm excited about it. Young guy,
Yeah.
it's great.
Having a bilingual
Homegrown.
manager, I think, is like always a very good thing.
Yeah. Well,
Obviously,
Matheny was bilingual.
he was, although not a great communicator. At least to us, to the press and the
Yeah.
fans. Maybe he was better behind closed doors. But yeah, I think it's always a good thing to have a bilingual manager, or at least bilingual folks in the clubhouse. My expectation is he's going to run camp like Shildt. He's going to manage very similarly to Shildt, but I think he's going to be more aggressive and follow the numbers a little bit more. I also think it's very telling that, shortly after Marmol got the job, that Skip Schumacher, who is as Cardinals of a man as a Cardinals man can get, is also coming over. Like,
Yeah.
Mozeliak and the DeWitts want people who are going to come over, listen to their ideas, and obviously bring their own flavor, but they want people to do what they're doing. And I think, over
Yeah.
the past 5, 6, 7 years, the Cardinals have really expanded their technology, their analytics. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And I think they're like, hey, we've spent all this money. We think we have some ideas. Put it in place. And, that's kind of
Yeah.
my expectation. I know one thing that's interesting to point out, I know Yachty posted on Instagram when that happened, he's very excited to play for a Latin manager.
Yep.
So, like, I'll take it. The players seem to like it. We'll see what happens. But like you said, we don't really know too much about his game management or whatever.
Right. Yeah. I think that's exactly right. So we'll see. I'm excited though. Mm. So we've got a few more topics to get into, but before we go to those, we do want to take a moment to talk a little bit about how you can support this show and a little bit about the and where you can find us and so on and so forth. So first of all, we want to thank again Chris Phillips for the new theme song that we love. We hope you enjoyed it as well. Ben, you want to talk about the newer art design for the show as well?
Yeah, as you may notice on our tweeters and our instas and everything, we have all new art this year, and I want to shout out Steph Simorka. You can follow them at Simorka Designs on Instagram. They may be related to me, they may not be related to me, but they do great work.
That
Go check them out.
they don't want you to know that they're related to Ben. So
That is probably true. So sorry.
We're also doing something totally new this run with the show. We have started a Patreon. We're starting small. We really want to grow this show and make it something even better than it ever was, and start to build a community around it and make new, interesting types of content and really make something that you are all going to enjoy. And in order to do that, we are looking for your support and your input. So we've got a couple different tiers. We're not going to get all of that into the show, but we will say anybody who joins the Patreon will be able to join our new Discord, where we will be chatting about the Cardinals, as the group grows. I imagine we'll be doing some like live game watching together. All in the chat together, talking about the games, talking about whatever. Should be a fun place to be. We're just starting, so we appreciate anyone who is a part of that. You can find the link to it on our Twitter and in the show notes. So head over there and support the show. And also, if you can't do that, we totally understand. We appreciate you just listening. Or go on to iTunes and give the show a review. That helps. It really does. So thank you for that. What else, Ben? Anything else we should be?
No, I think the only thing I really want to add to that is I think a very what we're trying to do with this kind of rebooting and relaunching or whatever we're supposed to be calling this is I think we really want to engage with the community. And we want, the people who are listening to be a part of the show. I think we want to build those relationships. Nate and I have even talked about the idea of flying out and going to a Cardinals game with some people who listen. Depending on how everything shakes out, we really just want to build our own little community. So, we want to hear from you. And if you have ideas or submissions or want to be on an episode, like, we want to hear about that.
Yeah.
We want to be dynamic and build that community. And I think, the best way to do that is interacting with you guys directly.
Yeah. Which, if you want to do that, if you have an idea for the show, if you want to talk to us, the best place really to do that is to get to us on Twitter at Talk About Birds. Also, always accepting joke ideas for the opening sting. Want to hear that. So please let me know. So yeah. I guess you can find me individually on Twitter at NateSTL. I also do another little podcast. It's a video game podcast. If you're interested, it's called The Short Game. Check it out. Ben, where can people find you on Twitter?
I don't really tweet. I only tweet on the Talking About Birds account. But you can follow me at Simorka, and maybe you'll convince me to tweet.
Yeah, that's fair. Really, just do the Twitter
Nate,
or
didn't the Short Game just have a big episode? How many episodes have you guys done over there?
Yeah, we've done 300. We're past
episodes.
It now, but yeah, we've passed 300. Yeah,
lots of content.
That show started right after the original Talking About Birds started, and we're still going.
Yeah.
So
check that out.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's get into our last topic of the episode. And then we're going to do a little segment, which I think will be fun. So the Cardinals have made one big move this offseason outside of the management change, which is the signing of left-hander Steven Matz. Ben, what's your take on that?
Makes me remember when baseball was a thing. And
I know
the league was talking to the players, and the players were talking. Do you remember there was reporting? I think Derek Gould was doing reporting of like Steven Matz is seen at the hotel around the meetings, and like Matz was on site. He's like, I'm getting a deal.
Well, so there was eight teams have submitted an offer to Steven Matz. It was a hot commodity.
Yeah, and so I guess like to take a step back, like what do I think of the signing? I think it's a very good signing. I think it's a very Cardinals signing. I think it makes sense for a bunch of reasons. He's young enough that it makes a lot of sense. He took a step forward last year. Maybe he could take another step forward. I think the way that he pitches makes a lot of sense for not only Busch Stadium, but the way the Cardinals team is currently configured with the 25 Gold Glovers, sprinkled throughout the lineup. He's obviously a ground ball heavy pitcher. He still has good velo. Getting him in front of a different coaching staff, like he has the kind of stuff that I could see his strikeout numbers jumping. He's a guy that you can dream on a little bit while still being a fairly known commodity. And the money, the money's just so good. That is, I'm shocked that I think it was 4 years, $44 million, something like that. And there's very few free agent pitchers that you could sign for that I would be mad about, especially in their age 30, 31 season. So I think all of that is really, really good. I think, if I have to be critical of the signing, it is a little boring. Signing a 3-4 pitcher is a guy that would be 3 or 4th in the starting rotation isn't the most exciting thing, but it is another one of those moves that it does raise the floor of the Cardinals. The Cardinals are definitely a better team before, after signing him than they were before. I think, with the uncertainties around the pitching staff, Waino's old, Jack Flaherty hasn't really pitched much recently. Dakota Hudson is coming off of injury. You have to assume KK is out. With all those questions, I think that this makes a lot of sense. I wish, it would have been a more marquee name. But, that is a slight criticism, what I think is a pretty much like a excellent signing.
Yeah, I think it's not even a criticism of the Matz signing, is that we wish it was Matz plus and not just Matz, because I think Matz is a great signing. Like, worst case scenario, he's in the bullpen and he's still cheaper than most bullpen arms are going to cost these days. So like the deal, I guess the thing that won him over to the Cardinals was the years. Most teams were offering 2 or 3 years and the Cardinals offered 4. So he was willing to take it. But I don't see how this can end up being bad for the Cardinals, and it could end up being great. I won't repeat everything you already said, but I think it was a wonderful signing, and there's no surprise to me that a lot of teams were going after him, and I bet he looked at the current Cardinals infield defense and thought, well, that's going to be where I'm going to be most successful as well, and had a lot of offers and ultimately went with the Cardinals. So I think it's a big signing. I think it's going to work out really, really well for the Cardinals, and even if it doesn't, well, oh well, it's not going to tank them for a while. So what else? So we know the Cardinals aren't going to sign Carlos Correa. We know they're not going to sign any of these $200-300 million players. What we know is that they're targeting bullpen, which makes sense, especially when you consider that the Cardinals want to convert Hicks and Reyes ultimately into starters. When you take those guys out of the bullpen, you really start to wonder, okay, who's in the bullpen? Who's the back end of the bullpen behind Gallegos? I'll go first, and I think the Cardinals should bring back our boy Joe Kelly, and then also consider Archie Bradley. And I think we'd be happy with those. And I'm trying to be realistic here. There's a lot of things that I really want the Cardinals to do. I really want the Cardinals to sign Clayton Kershaw, but I just don't think anything like that is going to happen. So I think if the Cardinals signed Joe Kelly and or Archie Bradley, I'd be generally happy with what the team has going into 2022.
Yeah, I think I'm fine with those. I do think that they are two guys that are doing the same job. So I'm not sure if you're saying sign both or sign one or whatever. But they're both,
I'm happy to sign both, but because more arms the better. But probably
sure.
either or.
Yeah, I think that kind of player makes a lot of sense. Somebody, who has good velo, will get you some ground balls, and you can assume is going to be reasonably healthy, although it's the bullpen, so you never really know. So I would say, yeah,
right.
I think that's great. Now, if I could get somebody, like, I think taking a chance on, like, a Richard Rodriguez would be interesting.
Yeah.
Taking a chance on Adam Ottavino, maybe having a bounce back. Or he actually had a pretty good year last year. Keon Kella, somebody that can come in and rack up Ks, get you 12 plus Ks per inning. And I don't think that, a lot of those names are out there right now. And I don't know how expensive they're going to be. Michael Givens is another interesting name, but a hard-throwing right-hander that is prone to K-ing people, I think, is something that the Cardinals could, well, I mean, every team could use more of, but the Cardinals could definitely use more of that. Especially, like, I think the Cardinals pitching is in a weird spot where, if we get the 10th percentile, if everything breaks right, it could be one of the better staffs in the league. But there's injury concerns, there's age concerns, there's concerns all over the place. So I think getting just more bodies makes a lot of sense. But I want to, like, a little more pie in the sky. Like, Carlos Rodon.
Yeah.
Carlos Rodon, the former White Sox pitcher, is still out there. There are interesting names out there for my money, at least, that aren't going to be extremely expensive. Danny Duffy is still out there. Michael Boyd is a somewhat interesting name. There are people out there that could, help the starting staff along with what's currently there. And I don't think the Cardinals are in the place where they can just assume everyone's going to be healthy. So I'd be interested in that. And one other name I want to throw out there, and I think I've probably texted you about this guy for a good chunk of the offseason, is the Cardinals should sign Kyle Schwarber.
I knew you were going to say that.
The DH is coming.
Full agree. Hard stop, full agree. Get him in DH, fourth outfielder when he's not DH.
Yes.
My only concern with it would be you're cutting off Yepez and Gorman for those at-bats, but that'll work out in time. Let's get Schwarber. I've always been a fan of Schwarber. His hit tool and power, I think, are real, and he will hit the ball hard wherever he's at. It's hard for me to say that as I remember some of those truly heartbreaking home runs he hit against the Cardinals in a Cubs uniform. Like that one they put in the little case on the top of the Wrigley's.
That's bullshit. Come on now.
Yeah. I mean, it was funny. Yeah. But I'm a big fan of Schwarber as a player, so I would love it. I think the Cardinals are pretty set on their lineup because of those guys I just talked about. But like Schwarber would be a potential huge bat to add to the lineup, and would be one of those moves that we are always sad that the Cardinals never do.
It's one of those moves. Yeah, I think that you make a move like that, and you can say with confidence you're the best team in the national or in the Central. Sorry, in the NL Central.
Right. Yeah.
So that's why I really like that. And I guess I was just kind of looking at the list, and I just want to throw one more name out there. And this is with a big caveat: will he take a 1-year deal to try to go a pillow contract to try to, reprove himself to the league or whatever they try to do? But Conforto, I think, is a very interesting
Yeah.
person. He's a guy that can potentially play all 3 outfield positions. When he's right, he is one of the best, I think, in my opinion, one of the best left-handed hitters in the league. Now, he
Yeah.
had 2 pretty bad seasons, one after another, one COVID season and one season last year. The Mets were just a dumpster fire last year.
Yeah.
But still okay in a weird way. The Mets are stupid. We'll see if Steve Cohen breaks
The Mets are stupid. All
the
right.
Mets are stupid.
Yeah.
Steve Cohen's going to have a
also
$300 million payroll this year. I think he's going to do it. But
I am a fan of Conforto as well. I'm a little less into that one because of I think the floor is way lower with Conforto, and he's still probably going to cost. If you can get him, I don't think there's a bad 1-year deal that exists. So if they could get him on that, by all means. But I think a team is going to take a shot on a few years with him because the skill set is there. The upside is tremendous. I have drafted Conforto in a fantasy league almost every year for 5 years straight because I am a big believer in that, but it has not paid off both in fantasy and real life multiple times for the Mets and for me.
And I guess before we move on, should we talk about Trevor Story? I know everyone's that is the Twitterverse is obsessed with that idea.
Of course. We're both huge fans of Trevor Story, and we saw what he would do, having that Arenado Story lineup in Colorado for years. How fun was that, right? He's not the best shortstop, but he's not awful either. So,
and I think something, if Trevor Story is underrated, it's his power speed combo. I don't know if people have paid attention to that, but watching Trevor Story in real life, like I've had the pleasure of doing many times, he is lightning. He is as fast as Tyler O'Neill, if not faster. It is unbelievable to watch. So I do think that would be very exciting, but unlikely.
That's my problem with those Story and Correa. I would love either of Correa. I'm a big fan of as the numbers he'll put up. The whole Astros thing, it's hard for me to get by. But Story
gymnastics that I will have to do if they sign Correa.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretending that he isn't a massive douchebag are going to are going to hurt me.
But we know they're not going to do it, so I don't even have to. It's not going to happen, and the Cardinals are not going to sign Trevor Story. I would love it if the Cardinals signed Trevor Story. Get the young out of there. He was great for some time. Much love, but he should be on a different team. Story should be the starter, but I just don't think it's going to happen. We're going to see DeYoung go until he can't go anymore, and then we're going to see Sosa or Edman or something like that. Or Gorman is going to take second base and Edman is going to move to shortstop or something like that. I think that's what the plan is. They're not going to drop $200 million on any of these guys. But, hell yeah, go and get Trevor Story and then also go and get Clayton Kershaw, and then we'll be awesome. So we're going to end our first episode here with a silly little game that I've come up with here. We're going to try to do more stuff like this on the show going forward. So the name of this segment is, Who is this guy?
Who is this guy?
So Ben, your job here is going to be able to guess.
I'd like to be clear. I do not know what this game is at all. Really.
This is all new. This is all new to Ben. So Ben, what you're going to have to do is I'm going to give you a series of clues that are starting off very vague.
Okay.
And your job is to guess who is this guy.
Okay.
The one thing I'll tell you, this game will always revolve around they were at one point a member of the St. Louis Cardinals.
Okay. That's nice that it is, it's not just humanity. It is localized.
No, it was Alexander Graham Bell. That's who it was. No. Okay. So I have a series of clues. I'm going to start now. I'll let you know when it's time for you to guess. Okay. This person was born on October 24th, 1977 in the Dominican Republic. He made his debut on April 4th with the Atlanta Braves. Do you have any idea who is this guy?
Okay. So he made his debut in what year with the Atlanta Braves?
2000.
2000. I don't think that this is right, but I should guess every time, right? Or should I just?
You can always make a guess.
Oh crap, the Heat is building. I had a name. Oh, Edgar Renteria is my guess.
Great guess. That is not correct.
Damn it. Okay. I guess he's much older than that. 77.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was he a Brave?
All right. We'll see. So I don't want to just start talking because I'll accidentally give up. I'll start giving up more details if I just start talking. So, next clue. This guy played for 4 teams in his career: the Cardinals, the aforementioned Braves, Miami, and the Dodgers. Who is this guy?
Oh! I think I have this. Happy flight. Rafael Furcal.
Oh, you got it in
Yes.
2. Very good. All right, I'll give you the rest of the facts here. This next one, I thought you might get it on this. So he won the Rookie of the Year, was an All-Star 3 times, led the NL in triples, led the NL in stolen bases, and led the league in assists each one time in his career. That was going to be the next clue. After that was
I don't think
was
that
acquired
one would have
in
helped me actually. I don't know if I would have picked up on that.
Okay.
How many gold gloves
this one
did you
probably
say?
would have helped. No gold gloves.
Oh, really?
He did not win a gold glove.
That seems silly.
I was surprised too. I was like looking all over, like I'm sure this guy won a gold glove. Yeah. Next clue was acquired in a trade with the Dodgers for cash and Alex Castellanos. And then finally, if you had somehow not gotten it, he was the starting shortstop and leadoff hitter for the 2011 World Series winning champs and created the Happy Flight motto. So I figured you'd get it by that last one, but you got it in 2. Maybe we'll keep a scorecard somewhere of how you do on this game, but we're going to do other games too.
Hell yeah.
But good job.
Yes.
You got it in 2.
Yes. I wish people could appreciate this right now, but tweet at me. I feel I'm proud of myself.
Yeah,
right
you
now.
should. You got it in 2. I did not. I thought you'd maybe get it after the 3rd one, but and certainly the 4th. But
really now, like I'm happy that I got Furcal, but it's making me feel very stupid about my Edgar Renteria. I think that was off by maybe a decade.
Maybe.
I still feel good. Yeah. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So do I?
All right.
Do I win Rafael Furcal? How does this work?
You do.
Okay.
Yep.
Like we get to hang out or something.
He's on his way to your house right now. Actually, if you look behind you right now. All right, that's going to conclude our first episode. Thank you all for listening. We really appreciate it. Share it with your friends, your family. We're glad to be back. I guess I don't really know what our outro is going to be now, but thank you, everyone. And,
thanks everybody. This was great.
Go Cardinals.